Hi, I'm Alex Howard, and welcome to Conscious Tea. My guest in the studio today is Bence Ganti. Hi, Bence.
Hi.
And we're here at the Integral European Conference in Budapest. And in today's interview, we're going to be exploring Bence's own background and path to the integral approach, his work in setting up this conference and bringing these teachings more widely into the European community, and also some of the tools that Bence has been developing. Now, Bence is founder and one of the directors of the Integral European Conference. He is also, I believe, founder of the Hungarian Integral Academy, and is very deeply passionate about the integral approach. And so I'm excited to get into that into today's interview. So, Bence, maybe a good starting point is, how did your own path with the integral approach first start?
Yeah, I have found the integral approach in '96, and at that time I was 21 years old and studying psychology in Budapest at the ELTE University. But I didn't meet Wilber's theory there. But I had a private teacher, a mentor, who actually will be featured at this conference tomorrow on Sunday, a Hungarian who was transpersonal psychologist and a yogi, so like a super psychotherapist and a yogi together. So he really is a master quality that transforms life of many, and many of the Hungarian people who have created something in the postmodern psychospiritual world are coming from his room, so to say. So I was a close student of him for 6 years, and he suggested me to read Kant actually. So when I opened the briefest of everything in '96, then I had an instant click experience that this is it, and I just felt that this is the it just kind of popped into the center of my identity at that moment. So I felt that for a life, or I don't know for how many decades, but this is the path I want to follow.
Wow, it sounds like it was a strong effect.
It was a strong effect. Oh yeah, it was like a boom effect. And but before that, I already had been, in psychotherapy with this mentor. I had been practicing meditation, trying.
Can I ask what? Because 21 is quite young. So,
Yeah.
So can I ask what initiated the interest in psychotherapy and meditation?
My father was a philosopher, still alive, but at that time he was actively engaged in philosophy, leadership theories, and he was also a graphologist, handwriting analysis, and he wanted to be a psychologist, but his life was going to another direction, so he couldn't. And he suggested me to study psychology, and when it came to the end of high school, so where to go to study, nothing really interested me that was offered in the universities, and psychology interested me because I wanted to know people, and my idea was I want to know everything about the person. So if I look at you like the magical eyes, I want to read you and feel you and so so it was partly the kind of suggestion of my father, and also I had a tendency to agree with the suggestion.
Mm.
So that's how I got into that young age into this whole thing. Yeah.
And then you read a brief history of everything, and something clearly happened.
Yeah.
How did things unfold from that point for you?
Yeah, because as I said, because finding that book, I already had been practicing psychotherapy and meditation, and as a student of psychology, I studied all the different systems that Wilber refers to.
Mm.
As a student of this mentor, privately, I studied Buddhism, yoga, psychology of yoga, and I studied, Sufism, so the differences, holothrope breathwork, different modalities, and I had the same point like Ken, that everybody is right, and it's crazy that these disciplines are fragmented and not integrated. And I said, we should integrate them. There should be a point where it all converges and we have a global unified psychology of all this. So when I find Ken's book, like boom, this click was that I have found that is already somebody has done it, and done it not just in a primitive way, but with a sophistication and clarity and depth. So that was like aha. So this is how I'm thinking, and here it is, put together. So I have nothing to do from this point on, just sit into this and go with it.
And as you did that, what was the effect on your own life, your own practice?
Well, to be honest, what transformed my life is not merely reading Ken Wilber's book, but what I think transforms personality or your whole being is your guru, your therapist, your teacher, your mentor. So I'm not doing integral just from a cortical level, just from rational understanding and agreeing that yes, but it's the other way around. I have a deeper, more embodied, approach, because I have been transformed by my masters, this one, and then I had one or two more other significant ones. And the integral framework holds it together and gives a platform to articulate, to direct the attention. So if I have a client, I understand this is now level 2, level 1, level 3, 5, 6. This is a psychic opening, this is a subtle. So very important, as Ken says, we have to have a map. If I wouldn't have Wilber's integral map, I couldn't name those things, or I could see them, but it's kind of a chaos where these elements are floating and there's no order in.
Yeah. In fact, it's interesting, you were saying when you were first inspired to study psychology, part of you wanted to be able to read people and understand them.
Yeah.
And I also studied psychology at university. And I think it was very funny as people would say, can you read my mind? And there was nothing that I learnt in 3 years of studying a psychology degree that could help me do that.
Yeah.
I got the integral approach and I was like, yeah, I got an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
And was that true for you?
Totally true. Totally. Actually, today I can read people's mind, but what I really read, so finally I got there, what was my dream, but I don't read people's mind like I hear their thoughts, like you hear them in a microphone, no, but I sense immediately the state of the people, I sense the auric field of them, I sense the change from moment to moment of their ego states and all that. But that didn't come just simply by studying mentally integral theory. It has came from years of working with people on one-on-one, in group settings, sitting with my teachers and mentors for years, and also it came from Vipassana meditation. I'm a Vipassana meditator, have sat in monasteries in Asia, have sat in centers in Europe. So meditation, lets you to relax into a selfless state, a full presence, and in that state automatically more refined or subtle capacities and sensing arises. So it all comes together to me.
Yeah, and I absolutely hear what you're saying. It's not just a set of ideas; it's an embodiment of that, and it's a commitment to practice as well.
Exactly, and at the same time, there's a huge difference between being embodied and not having a map, an all-encompassing map, or being embodied and have a map that brings it all together.
Yeah. Well, it brings me to the next thing I wanted to explore. We're here in Budapest at this extraordinary conference. It's it's a beautiful space, there's a beautiful feeling, and there's also a huge amount of inspirational and wonderful things that are going on. And someone who's been involved in running businesses, there's a lot of work gone into this. So firstly, just want to honour your kind of commitment and effort, and how beautifully it's come together. And I'm curious as to what drove you to, we've started with your kind of personal experience. What drove you to want to do that, and what's behind all of this?
It was a natural growing process. So first I created the Integral Academy in Hungary in 2006. Then a lot of years of being in group processes and getting used to do it in a larger scale. A couple of dozens to hundreds. And then I started to go to the USA and Germany and Russia, so different countries. But where the real integral gatherings happened was Germany and the USA. And Germany had Integral as forum, and the USA had the Integral Theory Conference, the What Next, the Integral Spiritual Experience Series. So I was there, and first as a participant, and then they gave me a role like facilitating the international panel, and doing an integral flow therapy workshop, and I was deeply, there and taking it in, and also suffering of some fallacies that those conferences had. That's not a fallacy of the integral conferences per se, but fallacies of the conference as a style per se, which is being basically a mental exchange um, with minimal post-rational and trans-rational deeper experience and interpersonal encounter. And for me, integral means, the true meaning of integral is not sitting down and just conversating about integral, or conversating from an integral perspective, but the integral experience, if it's full and embodied, involves half conversation and half nonverbal experiences together.
I'm really pleased to hear you saying what you're saying, because I think one of the things that I've noticed in the kind of wider spiritual community, that a criticism that can be targeted at the integral approach is, well, it's only maps and it's only theory.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that's not what it is,
It's not
but that's one of the ways it gets perceived.
Yeah.
So it's and one of the things that's seems really great about the way this conference is designed is that there's this whole workshop element to it. So maybe say something about that.
Yeah, so the conference, so let's approach from the hemispheres, right? So the half of the conference is left hemisphere, left brain hemisphere, lecture or sections or discussion groups where people chit-chat and talk and creatively dialogue around the topic. But it's still the mental exchange. Self, body is separate, self-sense solid and fixed. You there, I here. So that's the left brain. The right brain is letting go of words, right? And go into experiences, but it has to be facilitated well. Okay, so gradually open people and let people meet each other in this right brain or nonverbal space. It's not just I facilitate for you that you yourself in that corner do it, but we facilitate that dozens of people, and there are parts of the conference where 500 people together go into these states. And as Wilber says, integral teaching, the integration of the two hemispheres is the centauric state, the marriage of sense and soul, as Ken called it, where your mind and intellectual self and the nonverbal below the neck, emotions, heart, feelings, guts, and intuition. Intuition is not mental; it comes through the heart space. So all that is, actually the larger percentage of self integrated together. So for us, the Integral European Conference is not just a gathering place to conversate of integral ideas or from an integral perspective, but a practice. The conference itself is a practice, and by experiencing this conference style, I want people to go home and carry in their body, in their cells, the experience of what integral is.
And I think also if we take it a step broader than people taking it into their lives out of the conference, and also those that are not even here at the conference, it really seems to me that there is this either very intellectual approach to inner work, or this very experiential. And it's rare to see people bring those together. I noticed there's almost, and I think it's been called anti-intellectualism that goes on. That's too intellectual, I don't want to get into that. Or a kind of like, well, that's not valuable because that's just someone's thoughts or experience.
That's the postmodern.
This is what the theory kind of says.
That's the postmodern approach. So modernity, all about rationality, right? Experience, childish, forget it. I'm a serious person and very clever. So I figure it out from my mind, and that's all, right? Postmodern says, fuck it, excuse me, fuck the whole intellectual field. It's too much, we got enough, thank you. Let's jump into the postmodern pool of only experience. And if you try to think or you are too rational, we kick you out of the club. So we are not, right? So that was kind of the postmodern new age. I call it between the 60s and let's say the 90s.
It's still rampant.
Yes,
circles,
but when it was only that at that time, basically, or predominantly that. And that's green. And after that, I think we needed that experience to understand that first of all, we need that. So we need a phase. It has to be the part of your therapy and transformational where you really let go all the mental and just dive deep into the nonverbal post-mental. But then you have to integrate it with the mental. And integral, as postmodern, is a next phase where people figure this, and it's a more mature, down-to-earth, integrated approach. So yes, stuck in the left brain, modernity. Then other pole, go deeply in the right brain, deny the left brain, experience very much the right brain, postmodern. Integrate the two, become centauric, a mature level 6, yellow turquoise personality, two hemispheres together. Basically, that was the message right from the 60s, but we needed in the West like 60 years to unpack it and to work it out.
Yeah, yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. So I'm also curious to come a bit more into your other work outside of the conference, because I know that you've developed certain, I don't know if you call them tools or methods or integral flow, which is, so can you talk us through a little bit of what that is?
Integral flow therapy or flow experience, because therapy is a very narrow term. Therapy was found.
And a loaded term as well.
Yeah, very loaded. So it was created in an era where normality was the ceiling, and where there was normality and abnormality, and the psychologist was to do therapy for abnormals to get back to normal and adapt, right? But from the 60s, from postmodernity all the way through post-postmodernity, it's not the case. We figured that what was the ceiling is the middle of the development, and the whole spectrum of higher potentials, both personal and transpersonal, are ahead of us, right? So when I say therapy, I don't mean the clinical work, getting abnormals to normal, but I mean the whole spectrum, all the stages and all the states that we were laid out. So we have, and I have created, or some of us, these kind of guys, have created group field or spaces, workshop rooms and spaces and practices that can hold both parts of the spectrum at the same time. So I put you through exercises that will open you up, and some people in the same room, will have a regression to earlier stages and dynamical and childhood stuff coming out, and the next person, 3 yards away, has a spiritual opening from the same practice. So I call it a unified psychotherapeutical space where you can have an experience of any stage. You are welcomed, and my duty as an integral therapist or integral facilitator, as a better word, is to weave it all together. Now, weaving it all together doesn't come from the mind. Your mind is there to recognize that this is that, but it's not the mind from where you guide these processes. But for this, you have to drop into your deeper self, and your deeper self is connected to the field. There is an invisible field that Thomas Hubel is talking about, Hellinger family constellations is talking about, Rupert Sheldrake is talking about, Last Levin is talking about, and we traditionally called it God, mythic approach, but kind of the post-postmodern approach is not making it as a figure as God, but a field that connects us and has a higher intelligence than us, and that higher intelligence comes through your personal intuition and your deeper self. So you, as a group leader, you plug into that and let yourself be guided by that. So that's the base of the integral flow therapy. Flow in my work doesn't only mean the individual peak experience, because the original term of flow comes from Csikszentmihalyi, who is a Hungarian living in California, and usually people can't pronounce the name because it's very complicated writing. So Csikszentmihalyi has flow, and he could, show and research. Actually, it's a research-based founding in positive psychology. What are the characteristics of the personal flow experience, which is not necessarily transpersonal. So in the personal flow experience, you lose your personal self-sense, and you are one with the activity you are doing without mental reflection, and that brings tremendous joy, and creativity, and it's a peak experience. We go one step further, the same flow experience, but if you put people together, and people get into the individual flow states while they are moving together, dancing together, doing exercises together, then they start to sense that the larger reality, the field, is moving them or guiding their movements.
And so it sounds like, in a sense, that the role of the facilitator is almost, would it be right to say, to help people get out of their own way and let what wants to happen happen?
Yes.
Is that right?
That's right, but there is a trick in it.
Mm.
In order to get into the sensing of the field, you have to be 100% authentic and individual. So it's not that I wipe out your individuality and you're in a whitewash, neutralize, no personal self. The other way around. Full green is the basis of yellow. Yellow is the flow state, by the way, and turquoise.
And when you for those who are not familiar, when you say yellow, you're referring to Ken stages of development, or spiral dynamics.
Spiral dynamics.
Model,
yeah. At this point, spiral dynamics.
Yeah.
And when I say level 6 and 7 and 8, I refer to Wilber's numbered levels, which are perfectly correlating.
Yeah, and just to give a tiny bit of context to those that are watching, not familiar with Integral, it's effectively a model of different world views of how people would see themselves in reality based on where they are.
Yeah. So first we need a green opening, and which means you're very authentic. You drop all the schemes or the formalities. You're deeply honest, and you're deeply honest not just by talking, but through your movement. So I will demand you to express yourself through your movement. You get nonverbal, to get to deepest self. And when you do that, then that opens you to yellow, which is being in the flow. No more conceptual reflection on yourself and what's going on. Just from the guts, from the heart, from the vision, 100% authentic individual self-expression. So that's what I do with people. And when they get there, then I turn on exercises which connect them, and then they lose themselves, lose their control in the sense of mental reflective self, and they leave out their indigenous soul, actually, where the ceremonies are coming from. So the space becomes ceremonial, psychotherapeutic, spiritual at the same time.
Can you give an example of some of the exercises that you would use, how you would facilitate that process?
Yeah, this is what we are going to do in an hour here.
Okay.
That, we're just about the afternoon.
We could get a little taster.
Yeah. That, very simple. You are person A, I get person B, and I ask person B to step next to you, and you have to say as A where your body needs a touch. So you would feel, my body needs a touch at my chest. Okay. Other person puts the hand there, as long as you are, filled with that. And then the instruction is, when you feel the need of touch moves, put your hand there, and B puts his hand there. And then later I ask people you can move. So touch, and then you can move around it. And this drives people pretty soon, within 20 to 60 minutes, into so deep, internal processes that they were even aware of that they have inside. And they start to do very deep individual movements, sounds. And at this point, person A is facilitated, B helps. Then we reverse, change the role. Then both of them are cracked open. And then I put the groups of 4s and 6, continue that kind of nonverbal touching, moving. Now, here I also instruct people to get the ego out. So it's not about seduction, it's not about who is bigger and controlling and competition. And I can teach people to drop all of this. Mm-hmm. And when all of this personal dynamics is dropped, then the soul guides. We call it soul movement work.
So we only have 1.5 minutes left, but that's a pretty big statement you just made. And says you help people to drop away the kind of.
Yeah.
Can you say something brief about how you help facilitate that?
I have sentences that I give, so it's kind of hypnotic sentences, and while they are doing the process, I put sentences into the room.
Okay.
And those kind of, shift their mind.
So it becomes like an orientation in a sense.
Yeah, I'm a trained hypnotherapist, and NLP hypnotherapist as well. So kind of I use those instruction modalities and body work and different group methods, and combine them. So that's how it's basically like a guided V-space meditation. But not only sitting in a chair and meditate, but while you are working with other people's souls and bodies and stuff, you got the instructions, and that drives people into higher states and very, rich and deep experiences.
Sounds very beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you also for the interview, but also for putting on this extraordinary thing. It's as I say, it's been very touching, very beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm grateful to have your time as well.
Yeah,
So
thank you for
Bence.
the interview, Alex.
Thank you. And thank you for watching, and we look forward to talking with you again, hopefully very soon on Conscious Tea. Bye-bye.